my name's Sage and I'm the Youth Program Coordinator here at Community Services Unlimited. If you caught our last video on deep watering, today we're going to be following up on one of the techniques discussed in that video, Ollas. So Ollas are porous clay pots. They have roots in North Africa and are used for everything from cooking to irrigation. We're actually going to send this video over to South Central residents and Garden Gateway workshop participants, Carolina and Wendell, and they're going to tell us more about how they use Ollas, how to make them affordably, and what they're doing with them in their own house.
Hey everyone, welcome to our garden. People usually visit and I have my mask on, but Devin and Miguel are going to be far away, so I think it's okay to not have my mask. This is my home on 64th Street where we have started gardening. This is actually my front yard, so we're that crazy neighbor that just started growing food in their front yard. But what we did when we started landscaping is we went with native plants, so we don't water those. We kind of have a rule, we only water what we're going to eat. Did put Ollas in all of our raised beds, and these two raised beds in the back, which are done, actually have Ollas in them, but this front one doesn't. And so Devin was asking if we noticed the difference, and I do. Like if it doesn't, the one that doesn't have the Olla always needs more water, even though it has the most shade. So the Ollas just, I don't know, I water every few days, so the Olla for me is like insurance in case I forget. And I'm like, oh no, I didn't water my plants, and I run out here and they have yet to die. So this is the front yard, and then we'll go in the backyard, which is where we started in March because of the stay-at-home order. Right now our garden feeds us every day. Like every day we have at least one meal, which is 100% from our garden. So I'll take you to the back and we'll show you what's going on back there. Yeah, do some Ollas.
One of the things that we've managed to actually uncover while going through this garden journey with CSU is an Olla. And an Olla is an ancient way of watering through diffusion, where this is buried next to your plants, next to your vegetables. So this is an Olla that was created as it was intended to be, with a hole on top, big round vessel. On Craigslist, I got this for about 20 bucks. They retail for around 50 if you're lucky. And then shipping is kind of like tough. The University of YouTube has led me to understand that you can hack most things, and using a couple of simple things, we can go from 50 bucks retail to about like 7 bucks and a little bit of time. And what you will need is 2 pots. Doesn't have to be identical, but it would be ideal if they had the same circumference. Okay, yeah, it's the diameter of their lip, because they're gonna go on top of each other. Silicone, this one is called Aqueon, and I got this at the fish store, and supposedly it's non-toxic because it's going to be dealing with live fish. And so this is the actual glue that aquariums are actually, the glass is used to bond. And just a little, this is a seal, because one of the pots have to be, the hole has to be covered. Alcohol for prep, sandpaper, bamboo stick, and paper towel. So I'm gonna start by, pretty much, clean them, but they're gonna be buried under the ground. So as to prep for a better bond, just roughly sand up the .60 grit, but it doesn't matter. Just to kind of rough up the edges for a bond. And then just wipe it down, just so there isn't any remnants around the seal. And when I first made this tube came with a little tip to get really into there, but I found that the most effective is to just do it right off the thing and just pretty much create just even as you can get. You can then use the stick to and actually had a little misstep here, but it's okay because it's not going to dry me right away. Most people will just gonna add more glue to that, but I just got this little like saucer, and I'm just gonna create like a similar seal. And this should just cover the hole. It's a little light on there, so I'm just gonna add like a thing. Now this glue or the silicone will just dry, but before it dries completely, it'll remain I guess tacky. And if not that you would need to do it, but you can actually slice off any excess. So just like that, just pop it in there as close. Kind of see, and if you see that it's beating nicely at the edge, that's forming a nice little seal. And for those places that may need a little help, that's when your stick comes in, and you can just go in there and just spread it like so. It doesn't have to be perfect. Remember, this thing is going to be buried, and what's more important is that there's a tight seal. According to the instructions, this should be dry in about 24 hours, and then another 24 hours, so 48 hours in total before you add water. The ones that I did a leak test to make sure that I didn't miss a certain thing. Not a big deal, because you can always just add more silicone to the spot that you saw the leak from. And that's it. Easy to make, less than 5 minutes, but then you gotta wait 2 days before you bury it. One of the things that we really, really love about the Olla is the fact that not only is it kind of a connection to, ancestral ways of doing things, but it's also really intuitive and smart. And working through diffusion, so if the soil is dry and there's water in the Olla, what it's gonna do is it's just gonna like release slowly the water, the moisture that's inside this pot to give the soil some water. And it's really self-regulating, because if the ground was a little wet, then it wouldn't take as much water from the Olla, but if the ground is dry, then it's just gonna suck that in. So it's so smart, it's so intuitive. You want to place it kind of in the center of your raised bed, because that's the most ideal way to get the most effective way to water what's around it. I've seen people place more than one in their raised bed depending on how big it is. For this raised bed, one of the homemade Ollas that I put together, we planted it, or actually we buried it right in the middle. So it was one of the first things that we put in this bed. Was before we put down like the compost, before we put down like the cardboard, we actually dug it down and determined like where the top of the soil line will be. As long as it's kind of like there's a way where you can fill it that's exposed. And every day I have to fill this thing, because it's watering. Hopefully in a couple of months, these corns, these red beans, and I got the chaya cutting that I got from CSU that was freshly cut when I got it, has 2 new leaves, so it's encouraging. Got the tree collards and squash. So this is a 36 by 36 square raised bed, and one of the first things to do when you're starting it out is finding a good place for the Olla. Usually in the center is good, and digging it below the soil line, so that if it was coming up to here, I'd probably dig another 5 inches down deep, and then once you add your compost and your mulch, you'll be left with just the top right above the soil line, and that's where you can fill it with water, and then you're good to go.